Hello, 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 my friend. How are you, my soulmate? Soulmate? Yeah, if you're my soulmate, we are human beings after all, we are connected. How are you this afternoon? I'm talking of Northwest, if you're in Northwest. The subject matter. What is the subject matter? You know, I think I found something to keep grinding on. Some people might start calling this channel of mine dope that. Doping, and the pandemic in Kenya with doping among athletes is becoming an issue that I have been running around prophesying about, going into the wilderness with John the Baptist, and calling people out. Well, somebody has to do it. If you love something, you just keep doing it, right? If you love what you do, keep doing it. I love this. I love the fact that I'm privileged to speak in the athletic world. The other day I claimed I had authority. That was just a speech. Don't take me seriously. I don't have authority. In fact, if any authority I have is been given from above. What about that? Is that a sense of humility? Possibly. So again, this is another third edition of the doping pandemic in Kenya athletic family and body and national level. Talking of that, I think this is quite sobering that, as I was mentioning, some of the athletes that have been banned in the past and the history of steroids and doping and scandals in athletic in Kenya. It was sad to learn that one of the athletes, Kipyegon Bett, who was a world champion under 20 years old in 2017, at the age of 26 passed away after long illness and a failed liver. That's what I'm reading in the local newspapers. He had been banned for 4 years. 143 800-meter runner, Kipyegon Bett, passed away 2 days ago. This is a sober reminder that when I speak on these athletes, when I speak on this subject, I hope I don't come across as callous, cold, indifferent. I hope I humanize the athletes I speak about. It was kind of sobering that 48 hours later of the young man I mentioned at 26 died after long illness. It is said that he had gone into depression. He took antidepressant path of destruction, which is alcohol, and the local newspaper are reporting him having been found dead. It's a sad state of affairs, and for me, coming from Paris and the accolades and the glamour of Paris Olympics, now we are talking about lives. We are talking about how fragile life is and how beautiful life is when we are here. And that's why I think it's important that we don't just dance around issues. Hopefully we speak to the core of what really makes us. Because I think in the world of today, I think we have developed very short memory. It's a TikTok generation. People hardly focus or say discipline on any subject. If I talk of a community like Kenya on national level, at the local level, we are all suffering from just that deficiency of long-term memory. Maybe this program seems to help me recover or reboot my brain and look back on how far we have come and how far the history of athletics in Kenya in particular and doping and how we've come to a nation whereby now the conversation is not about gold and winning medals and bringing pride to the nation, is how can we say no to drugs? How can we say no to steroids? The enhancing substance that some athletes have chosen to use to win and to be in the podium as winner, which is pretty much cheating. I think the collision between science and natural world is what I might suggest that could be an issue we might talk about, because every time I've noticed, it could be just not me, but an observation is that when there's a collision between the natural world and the science world, or the human encroachment into the natural world, it's always disaster. COVID is an example. COVID is allegedly, or people have traced it to bats. And in the caves or some parts of China, people have traced Ebola to the jungles of Africa, and how human beings have encroached, or they haven't given the wild environment to be in their safe place and mushroom and be natural as possible. I think when science claims to save the world environmentally, I don't know how that looks like. Are we going to artificially fix the natural world? So I'm wrestling with this idea of how we're going to navigate the world. Somebody even suggested that we should have a steroid-enhanced sport Olympics, where people who have been juiced up, they've been manufactured artificially, injected with substance that is pharmaceutical or scientific. We should have a special event for that. Talk of how far science has come for us. As great as science is, there's flaws in science. The idea of survival for the fittest. How did that work out during COVID? That's just, I'm throwing some things out there for you to think of. Anything that claims to be superior, every school that claims to be superior, it becomes a cult. It becomes a religion of self-destruct. It never enhances, it never protects. It claims a lot. Claims that it is where everybody should worship. We should all go to the science temple. What about the spiritual realm? Is that maybe somewhere we should be thinking about? Because in the spiritual realm, we are looking at holistic. How can we harmonize and live in a sense that we have respect for both the natural world and the artificial world, or the human world? That's the idea of being symbiotic and seeing each other as sacred. Anyway, those are my opening remarks, looking at where we are in terms of steroids, in terms of drugs, in terms of pharmaceuticals, and how they've taken over a nation like America, where as great as drugs have come and saved lives, there's a downside. There's always a trade-off. So anyway, I opened by paying respect to a young man that perished. If anything has to do with the fact he was depressed after his demise in athletics world, and the fact that steroids and being banned for 4 years led to that dark moment in his life, I don't know. It's my speculation, but may he rest in peace if that's what we're gonna say when people are dead. I don't know how that works. I think I'm just gonna be a rapid session here today. Maybe I've been beating this horse too hard about steroids and scandals in Kenya, because even reading this yesterday in a newspaper, they've come up with a scientific program, or a science-based program on tracking athletes in Kenya, trying to collect data, which already I knew that was in place. But now, I had Barnabas Correa claiming that the fact that we are in the category A, which is, as I said before, we are blacklisted. they are trying to come up with programs and projects that can be able to curtail and try to see where the problem is and catch it before it goes maybe international. I think we're just trying to self-preserve. I think for me there should be more education on athletes, because if we remember the history of drugs, if we remember the history of steroids, Lance Armstrong, 5 times French, biking, whatever, those Tour de France thing. What happened to Lance Armstrong? Is that a lesson? I don't know. Do anybody learn? Anybody listening? Maybe you sometimes think we can get away with it. That's human nature. If I can get away with it and I make it big, I'm okay with it. So again, it goes to the whole idea I was talking about, how our hearts are so deceitful. People say it's not cheating until you're caught. Human beings, we masquerade a lot. We are very good at that. We play games, even Games of Thrones. Go check it out. So I'm talking of Kenya making attempts. Barnabas Korir talks about that he's becoming the new face, or as I say, is a czar of drug war in Kenya, so to speak. I wish him luck. But I think one of the things I'm trying to say is that the history of scandals, drugs, goes back. Let me just go back to 1988, where Ben Johnson brings drugs and drug use and cheaters into the center stage. When Ben Johnson was busted after winning 100 meters in the Olympics of Seoul, and I think it was 48 hours later or 72, it's like O.J. Simpson driving his Bronco down in LA in 1990s after whatever you know about O.J. Simpson. Ben Johnson, with the drug scandal in Olympics, takes center stage. While Kenyans, I call that the golden era, the golden Olympics of Kenyans. It was a drug Olympics at the highest level, because sprinting 100 meters, even to this day, is the must-watch event in Olympics. Before, Usain Bolt, when it was Usain Bolt's show, I think millions and billions of people around the world wanted to see what he was going to do. Ben Johnson back then, running 9.79 was world record stuff. Nobody's ever thought people are going to break 9 something. But he took the world by storm, and the storm continues. Because down the road, after that Olympics, we had Christy Linford, world champion 1991 Tokyo, the British sprinter. He wins that 100 meters event ahead of, I think, Dennis Mitchell, Carl Lewis. Carl Lewis was a character too that I've mentioned in the past. And then Christy Linford, a few years later, became the face of scandals and steroids in the Great Britain, and to this day I don't think he has ever recovered. So is the Canadian Ben Johnson. Those are mega names, mega athletes. Those are I call them the mega stars of track and field back in the 80s, 90s. We can fast forward, and let me just take you quickly to the up and coming basketball player for the North Carolina Tar Heels, Marion Jones. If you don't know Marion Jones, just Google Marion Jones. She was an upcoming, built to be the next queen in track and field. She was highly rated. I think she was at one point Sports Illustrated, the queen of track and field, well-spoken. I think she was so well-spoken that she really became the face of track and field on that gender of women. So Marion Jones takes track and field and pretty much put it to another level. Fast, quick, built, character, very likable. I ran into that Marion Jones. I ran into this lady, Marion Jones, in Milan, Italy, 1997. She was just warming up on the track. And I looked and I knew I was so skinny. And I didn't have any muscle. She was built. She was a superwoman, fast. And so 1997, let's fast forward, 2000 Olympics Sydney. Before Usain Bolt, I would say Marion Jones was a huge name in track and field, because in Sydney Olympics, she had planned, or she had prepared herself. She was ambitious enough to say she was going to win 5 gold medals. Is it 5? Let's count. 100 meters, 200, 4x1, long jump, and she wanted even to do the relay. So she had set herself that high. That was how ambitious Marion Jones was. I don't think she got what she wanted, but that was the focus. The newspapers, television was saying Marion Jones is out to surpass Florence Griffin Joyner Jr. From 1988, who was one of the greatest. Anyway, she doesn't do that, but it was quite ambitious. It was something that nobody has ever promised or even talked of accomplishing. Whether she accomplished it or not, that's not the point I'm trying to make here. There's this idea of fame. There's this idea of Hollywood fame or track and field fame. I've talked of Ben Johnson, Christy Linford, and I mean Marion Jones, the queen of track and field. It was just after 2000 Olympics, Marion Jones became another mega scandalous woman in track and field. She was caught in racketeering, drugs, steroids, Florida connection with drug lords and science war that had created this lab, and they were known to be agents of drugs. She lied to the federal government, and she ends up in jail for 4 years. I'm just giving examples of what happens when drugs and steroids and athletes come together. It's never a good day. And I think these stories have made people very skeptical of track and field. And we can even go to Kenya. John Ngugi in the 90s, I've spoken about John Ngugi, 5 times world cross-country winner. He missed the testing and became the first Kenya I remember of that was drug-related scandals about drugs and steroids, doping. His career was never the same. I think he speaks about that phase of his career with sadness. If you listen to him, it tarnishes his name. He was never the same, though I think he was the greatest. But again, once you we caught in the web, in the storm, in the eye of the storm of scandals and doping, the world never forgives. And I don't think John Ngugi was ever forgiven, though I did, and some people did, because I think the government, the system failed him. Bernard Lagat was in the storm of doping and scandals and all that stuff. Likely enough for him, he had legal representation that bailed him out and saved his face and saved his career. Asbel Kiprop, 1500 meter runner from 2008. He got busted for steroids. I remember stories after that of him going into depression, drinking and driving in Nairobi. There were some little clips of him doing that. That's what happens when you fall from fame, grace, and you end up in hell, so to speak. He's one of the examples I think should teach Kenyans that you never will be the same, mostly coming from a poor country and you're black. I emphasize that because Christy Linford has been shunned, demonized in Britain to a point whereby Christy Linford, who was a great sprinter maybe, is from Britain, is from UK, a country that is notorious for racism. They've always seen themselves as pure. They are the ones who export the civilization around the world, the imperial empire, the imperialists and the colonialists. And when they see somebody who is black and they are Brit, they just exile Christy Linford. You now have talk of sprinters as being the dominant discipline of steroids back in the 90s, 80s, even 2000, and Marion Jones. Let's fast forward and see how Kenyans are, because we don't have sprinters, we have marathon runners. That's the bread and butter for Kenyans when it comes to earnings and glamour. Eliud Kipchoge, Kiptum, Tegla Rupe. You can mention all the marathons around the world. That's where Kenyans go, and they are sitting on the thrones all the time. That's where money is. That's where Usain Bolt is when it comes to sprinting, and that's where Eliud Kipchoge is. I'm talking of the mega events, 100 meters and marathon. That's where money is in the world of sports. What has Kenya done? They've taken the template of steroids and they've applied it to their own. It's sad because if you look at, like I talked about, the idea that we've had so many of our athletes busted, banned, banished, suspended because of steroids and doping. It is majorly in marathon, majorly, like it was for sprinters back in the days, and even now sprinters struggle with steroids. Kenyans, we found a market. We have a niche in marathon, and what are we gonna do? Exploit it by all means necessary. It is something that if we don't wake up and realize the damage that we have done to our reputation as a country, can I say we'll end up, I don't know where, because when we are not trusted for our raw talent, when we think science is going to be is going to unlock our potential, Kenyans, let's look around the world. How is that working when it comes to science? As great as science is, I'm not dismissing science, but it's all, we have to respect the sacredness of natural talent. Nurturing it in a way that fits the narrative, fits the whole idea of excellence. The time you think you're going to artificially manufacture a marathon runner and run under 2 hours, with the way Eliud Kipchoge has done, and I have to say, maybe he's an exception. And I hope he's clean. I'm just saying right here, I hope Eliud Kipchoge is clean. That's me. Because at the rate, the avalanche of scandals that Kenyans have right now of doping needs to be addressed. Not as vices, as Barnabas Corey suggested the other day in the newspaper. It's not a vice, it's a crisis. It's a pandemic. To just downplay the crisis in Kenya and just say, wave it around and say, oh, it's gonna go away, we still have a pool of marathon runners, I think we are lying to ourselves. And I've said this over again in my 3rd edition, I'll keep pounding this topic. We are living a lie, Kenyans. We have a problem in our hands. That's a fact. We've lost a young man because of, well, doping, ban, depression, health issues after that. I'm calling Kenyans out again because I won't stop. Because I love the country, I love the nation. Athletics has brought me this far, and it's a beautiful sport when you really know what you're doing with it. I wasn't the best, but I'm trying to speak to see the best. Again, may you rest in peace. Kipyegon Bett, 26-year-old young man, passed away 2 days ago. That was me. Cheerio! Cheerio, cheerio, baby. Don't you know I love you? If you don't believe I do, why don't you try me? I will never let you down. I will never let you. Peace.